Hello, and welcome to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. We've got a newbie on the Zooms with us today. Jordan Herring is joining us. He is the arborist and grounds maintenance manager for the city of Winchester. There is a native plant festival coming up on Saturday, October 4th. He's going to give us details for that. But Jordan, thank you for taking some time today, because I have to admit, I thought that it was magic that the grounds of so many city properties looked as well as they do. And lo and behold, it's actually because of you and your team.
Yeah, it is. This time of year, we are running like chickens with our heads cut off around trying to make everything look so nice. Got a lot of employees, but we also work with a lot of contractors to make Winchester try and look as beautiful as it can.
Talk to me about what that position is. What kinds of things are you guys in charge of?
So my position has two titles. One title is arborist, and then I've got another title, which is grounds maintenance manager. So on the arborist side of things, that's where really my expertise is. I was a forester for about 6 or 7 years before I came to this position. That's what I studied in college, was forestry and urban forestry. So that part of the job I was ready to go on. So basically, we have about 7,000 street trees here in the city of Winchester. So that's all throughout our neighborhoods, our downtown area, which is a lot of trees for a pretty small area. So really Winchester, they decided that they needed an arborist to really manage all of these trees. My biggest role is really just making sure that all of our street trees are healthy, finding areas that maybe we need more trees for shade, and really choosing the best species that we possibly can for the right place. But then, like I said, I've got the grounds maintenance manager portion of the job as well. So that is really just taking care of all of the landscaping throughout the city, not just our city hall buildings, our downtown area, but also all of our parks. We've got about 16 parks here in the city of Winchester. So I've got a crew of around 25 to 30 employees this time of year. And like I said, we are nonstop cutting grass, mulching, taking care of trees throughout the parks. We're busy, busy, busy. It's a great job. And this time of year, we are running wild.
Chris Conyer does the show with me several times a year. He's scheduled, I think, to be on in a couple of weeks. And he and I always laugh because before he took that job, he was, of course, with Frederick County. And I'm a Winchester, Frederick County native. I had no idea there were that many parks in the city of Winchester. I think it's fantastic, but somebody does have to maintain those. You have neighborhood things where people do cleanups and things like that, but you have to make sure that the flowers are weeded, all of the things.
Exactly. We've got a lot of trees that are landscaped in these parks. We're doing new pollinator meadows, wildflower meadows. We really try and listen to the public, and really in each area of the city where maybe they're close to a certain park, like Weaver Park or Timbrook Park. What do these residents want out of their park? We get a lot of requests for now native plants and pollinating type plants for our wildlife, but also some people just want grass in those areas for their kids to play in. So yeah, it's a lot of managing those areas and making them look up to par for the public.
I think it's one of those things that many of us just take for granted and don't know the kind of work that has to go into it. So, for example, every time I come downtown and I come down Cameron Street, I absolutely love the way Cameron Street looks now when you get closer into downtown proper with the medians and you've got the flowers and you've got trees. It just is absolutely beautiful. And I think that to myself every time I come down Cameron, but I've never really given much thought to how did it get that way and how does it stay that way? And that's due in large part to you.
I appreciate you saying that. Like I said, it's not easy work. It's making things look beautiful. And say that's really what we want when people even just come and visit Winchester if they're not from the area, just to see really beautiful plants, flowering plants, and all of our trees, like you said, that we have on Cameron Street and everywhere else downtown. We really pride ourselves in making the city look as beautiful as it can possibly be. So yeah, I really appreciate you saying that.
As we're talking now on Zoom, you're standing in front of a Tree City USA banner. That's really important designation that the city of Winchester has as well.
It is, yeah. I think we're on our 44th year as Tree
Wow.
City USA. So yeah, it's a really great designation, just showing that Winchester as a city, we're doing our best to make sure that we're doing the right things for trees in the public. We're spending a certain amount of money per capita on tree planting, tree care, just to really ensure that we've got a great urban canopy for years to come, even after I'm way gone or retired out of this position. it's a really great designation just to show the public, hey, trees are important to us, and this is how we're going to show you why.
I think another thing that most of us overlook, we've all done it probably once, if not more than once, in our own backyards, is we think we want this particular tree, and we're not thinking about how deep the roots go or how tall it's actually going to grow and start to interfere with power lines. When you have places like the Old Town Walking Mall, for example, you've got to be very specific about what you're planting there, because not only does it get seen and the tree wells are used as sitting spaces for people, but they get lights put in the trees. There's a lot that goes into figuring out what kind of a tree is going to withhold some of the work that it has to do while it's in a spot.
Well, you're exactly right. Being a forester in my previous job, it was so much different working with forest or trees in people's backyards. But when I became what they call an urban forester here in the city of Winchester, trees are, they're going to struggle. You're putting them in environments that really they're not supposed to be in. So you really have to choose the best species for the best spot. And we call that right tree, right place. We've got to worry about, like you said, overhead power lines, not planting trees that are going to get very large and then be touching power lines eventually. We've got to make sure that certain trees can handle less water or soil compaction, less root space. If you go and plant some of our native species, they're just not going to do well in a little 4x4 planting box that just gets dried out and soil compacted. So that really is one of the biggest parts of my job is wherever we're going to plant a tree, I go on site and just have to really look at all of the different variables to determine what is the best species for this location. And a lot of our trees are in front of residents' homes here in Winchester. So it's also, I've got to work with all the different variables of the site, but then I also have to work with the variable of the resident because that tree is going to be in front of their house for hopefully years and years to come. So also helping them choose a species that they're going to be happy with and that is also appropriate for the site. There's so many different variables. It's not just planting a tree in the ground and hoping that it's going to last. It's a lot of thought and then care and maintenance after that tree is planted for years and years.
I remember several years ago, the town of Front Royal used to have Bradford pears. I think they were lining Main Street, and they have had to rip all of those out because they are prone, I think, to disease. And if one gets it, it'll jump to the next tree. And there are just so many things that, even though it looks pretty and would be very aesthetically pleasing on a main street, they're just not feasible.
No, not at all. And yeah, Bradford pears is one of our biggest problems as urban foresters today. And not just urban foresters, but foresters that work in natural areas as well. Because yeah, Bradford pears, for one, like you said, they're just not appropriate for being in a city and around a lot of cars, around homes, because the way that they branch is not, they're not connected well to the tree. So any little bit of wind we get, whether that be a storm or sometimes ice damage in the winter, those branches snap off so easily. And we've had many instances where cars have been totaled by a branch from a Bradford pear. So, yeah, very horrible trees for the urban environment. But like I said, also in our natural areas, they're really bad because they spread everywhere. They just seed prolifically and then they end up taking over areas. And instead of having a nice forest or natural area of a lot of different species, it ends up turning into an area where it's just one species, which is Bradford pear. So yeah, horrible invasive species. So that's something else that we're contending with today is trying to get rid of these Bradford pears and then replant something that's way more appropriate.
The time period that they look pretty isn't nearly as long or as good as the time period when they smell bad.
Exactly. They may look pretty for a week or two, but yeah, they're not worth that little window of prettiness, at least in my opinion.
And they're not native, are they?
They're not. Nope. They're actually invasive, which is even worse. We do have some non-native plants, but this is a non-native invasive plant. That means basically like what I was saying in these natural areas, they spread prolifically. When we have invasive species like this, they just take over different environments. They don't have any natural predators that contend with them to keep them in check. So that's why invasive species like these are so bad because they end up just ruining our biodiversity in our kind of local ecosystems.
You've got the Native Plant Festival that's coming up on Saturday, October 4th. It's from 10 to 2 at Jim Barnett Park. Talk a little bit about the details for that festival and also talk about why native plants are important, even in our own backyards.
So, like you said, we're having our Winchester Native Plant Festival. It's going to be held in Jim Barnett Park on Saturday, October 4th, and it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Basically, we're just really trying to highlight the importance of native plants in our own local communities. So we're going to be having some native plant nurseries come out to sell native plants. Yellow House Natives is an awesome one based out in Berryville. So I'll be personally buying some more plants to put in my backyard. For that, we're going to be having some environmental nonprofits and governmental organizations to come out, hand out educational resources. We've even got a couple handing out tree saplings to give away. So get there early to try and get your free tree saplings. We're just really trying to highlight why native plants are so important in our local ecosystem. They've occurred naturally in our environment for thousands and thousands of years. So our local wildlife, pollinators, butterflies, bees, bats, they all rely on a lot of these plants that you can buy here at our Native Plant Festival. And we're not saying that non-native plants are necessarily a really bad thing. If you really like a non-native plant that's not invasive, you can plant that. But really what we're trying to get to the public is our local pollinators are struggling right now through loss of habitat, use of insecticides, urbanization, invasive species. So if we can just plant a couple of these native species in our backyards, then we're allowing basically a little pathway in like a food desert, basically, of, hey, here's a little bit of food on your way, maybe migrating south, just to help out our local pollinators.
We have so much more access these days to information and resources than we used to even 5 years ago to be
Mhm.
able, whether we're at a garden center or we're at a nursery like Yellow House, which I do adore. They are always set up at Blandy. They are always at the Master Gardeners show that they do at Bell Grove every year. But we can now do just a slight bit of research on our own and find out, is this plant native? Is it invasive? I always look invasive first because I know I don't want that. And then, if at all possible, native is my next option because we've had way too many run ins with things that we thought looked pretty and then they take over. And it's very hard to get rid of a plant once it has become invasive.
Exactly. Yeah. Once some invasive plants are here or insects, a lot of times they're here to stay and they're going to wreak havoc until we can maybe figure out some solution to them. We have amazing resources nowadays. And that's what a lot of our nonprofits and governmental organizations are going to be here at this festival for, is to hand out educational material about maybe instead of planting a Bradford pear, plant something like a redbud or a dogwood or a yellow poplar that they also have beautiful flowers, and our local pollinators can actually use those sources of food instead of a Bradford pear. So again, there's great resources like Virginia Native Plant Society. They've got books on this is native in your particular area, and monarch butterflies are attracted to this, or our native bees are attracted to this. So yeah, there's amazing resources out there. And like I said, we're not saying don't plant this. If it's invasive, yeah, please don't plant it. But here's just a great alternative that's a beautiful flowering plant that you might not know about that occurs naturally in our area.
That's the really cool part about having them set up with booths, is that people can come and ask the random question that they wouldn't normally probably have access to that organization. It might be a little more work for them to have to look them up online or find a phone number or look for their website, whereas they can come to this festival and they're standing right there and they're waiting, literally waiting for you to walk up to their table and say, "Hey, I've got a question for you." And they can't wait to answer those questions.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many organizations and resources out there for everyone to use. Even if you have one tree in your front yard, there's going to be groups there like the Virginia Department of Forestry. If you have one question about maybe that tree doesn't look very healthy, or you're wondering even what species it is, they're a resource for you all the time, not just at this festival. Whenever you have a question about anything, a couple people walk up to me last year at our event that said exactly that, that they had no idea that Virginia Cooperative Extension can help you out with doing soil samples in your yard, or the Virginia Department of Forestry can help you out with tree advice that does not cost you any money. They will come out to your property for that. So yeah, you can come out and just really learn about your local resources that really are at your disposal all the time. And also, we're going to have a bunch of kids' activities. We're going to have arts and crafts, little games that kids can play, face painting, also include them, get them excited about pollinators and our native plants. And right where we're going to have all that area, we have a 1 acre wildflower meadow that we just installed 2 years ago. It was looking incredible this year. We really want to highlight that as well. Maybe you see a plant in that meadow that you think is beautiful and you can figure it out and then figure out you want to plant that in your backyard.
Chris and I talked about that pollinator meadow. We've talked about it on several different shows. One of my dear friends, Sari Karp, with Sustainability Matters, she passed a few years ago. Sadly, she passed before she got to see it in
Yep.
the full bloom that it is now. That was a huge project of hers. Her heart was 100% in it. And I remember Chris and I think we might have even recorded a show standing out there one time because initially you look at it and you're like, how is this going to be any kind of a meadow? And now you can't imagine it not being there. That's the beauty of being able to do these types of projects.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought up Sari because I've known Sari, gosh, for almost 10 years at this point, from even before I worked for the city of Winchester. She was an incredible asset to the Shenandoah Valley. And yeah, when I got here for the city of Winchester, she was one of the first people to email me saying, hey, we're looking for a spot for a wildflower meadow. Where do you think we can do it at? And this arboretum was the perfect spot because it was just like an acre of grass and rocks. So there was nothing going on other than us mowing and weed eating around rocks all summer long. So we chose that spot. And yes, like you said, unfortunately, she passed away before she could really see it in its full beauty. But we have a bench dedicated down there in honor of Sari. So I'm sure she's looking down and happy with the way things have come out.
And there are so many other things in Jim Barnett Park that I think even someone like me who has lived here my entire life forgets that are there or that have been added and we're just not aware of. I learn about a lot of it from having them as guests on my show, but the Lions Club has a sensory garden path type thing. They're going to be set up at this festival. There are a lot of things to explore just in the park itself, not just the ball fields and Chris's beautiful turf soccer field.
Yeah, there's honestly, yeah, Jim Barnett is it's an incredible park for our community. Like you said, we've got our Century Trail for the sight impaired. They can walk the trail. We have braille signs that explain what species is in front of them if they want to touch it, smell it. But yeah, like you said, we've got, gosh, so many different things. The soccer turf fields that were installed a year or two ago. We've got now a skate park at the front of the park, pickleball courts, Wilkins Lake where people fish all the time. So yeah,
There's a
you know,
dog park. You have a dog park in the park.
there's so much going on here that yeah, you can come check out the festival, but then there's so many different activities, a disc golf course as well through the forest of Jim Barnett Park and our open areas. So yeah, so many activities happening all the time here in the park.
And there's no admission fee to attend the festival. People can just roll right on up and walk in and wander around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no admission fee whatsoever. The only thing that you might be paying for is if you like native plant, the Yale House Natives is going to be selling. But like I said, we'll also have trees to give away for free as well. No admission, just come as you are. And we're also going to be having a mobile cafe called Station Mobile Cafe, and they're going to be selling refreshments for people as well, coffee, tea.
I saw that on your flyer and I thought, I don't know who they are, but if they have coffee, I like them already.
We're going to need it for setup in the morning. So yeah, I'm really glad that they're coming out.
When people are coming into the park, because there are multiple ways, as I have learned over the years, to get in and get out of the park, do you recommend that they come in on Cork Street from the main entrance of the park? Is that the main entrance of the park?
I don't know if we really have a main entrance to the park. There's the entrance on Pleasant Valley Road, but yeah, probably the easiest for this festival, if they're looking to come, would be to come off of Cork Street. We have two entrances, so if you miss the first entrance, if you're heading towards Cincinnati Road, there's a second entrance. You'll see a skate park. We have a ton of parking here. We are going to be busy with sports this time of the year, soccer and stuff like that. But there's the Yost parking lot right across from the festival when you pull into the park. Huge parking lot at the park. Also, the Warren Moore building always has extra spaces. So yeah, there's about three different ways you can come in the park, but you'll find us eventually.
Do you have information about this festival online anywhere? Is it on the city's website? Is it on social media? Anything like that?
So it is on our social media. So our Parks and Recreation Department, they posted the event. So you can, if you want to attend or learn more about it, you can always just go to our Parks and Rec Facebook page and click on attend. We also have flyers that we posted on our social media as well. So yeah, there's ample opportunity to learn more about this festival.
I like that several of the people that are going to be set up there are also focusing on the bees. We hear a lot about the bees, and I worry that sometimes people think about that on a national level and not on a local level. So the fact that you have the beekeepers of Northern Shenandoah Valley that are going to be there and explain what actually is good and what actually is bad for us right here in our backyard, I think is going to be incredibly beneficial.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, they're also going to be there for guidance on maybe people that are interested in starting a hive in their backyard as well. They're an amazing resource. They know it works, they know it doesn't work. Yeah, incredible resource. And I should probably mention, City of Winchester has been Bee City USA designated for, I guess, a year now. We're almost hitting our second year mark. So that's similar to the Tree City USA designation, but it's a different one that's going to show that, hey, we're doing a lot more things for pollinators and native plants. Instead of in our normal landscaping downtown, where it was just a lot of non-native species, we are incorporating native ones to increase that habitat. We're creating new pollinator meadows. Again, going to show Winchester's trying to do the right thing for our local ecosystems.
And there's just so much education to be had out there. My husband works for Dodson Pest Control. They have been inundated this year with calls for yellow jackets. But I think sometimes people forget that if they're spraying to kill or get rid of the yellow jackets, that's going to impact also the honeybees and the other pollinators. So you've really got to be careful trying to get rid of one thing at the expense of something else.
Exactly. Yeah. Spraying insecticides or herbicides. We're not saying don't do that, but we're saying maybe read more about how you're supposed to do that. Or if you have a flowering weed in your yard, like a dandelion, maybe don't spray that with herbicide until it's done flowering, or pick off the flower before you spray it. Because yeah, that's what our local bees are attracted to. So if you spray dandelion flowering plant in your yard, then that bee is going to land on it and then be impacted by it. So we still have a lot of education that we need to get out there, and this is a great time to come and learn about those things.
Thank you, Jordan, for taking the time to give me all the details. I'm going to come find you at the festival and have you give me a tour, a personal tour of the wildflower garden. How about that?
I would love that. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I'm excited for you to come out. We've just put a new trail through Arboretum where the event's going to be happening too. So we've got a lot to look at.
I will be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, a few minutes after noon. So meet me here then.